Hey, this is Notser, and we're taking a look at the Soviet cruiser line. At Tier 1, we have the Orlan. This is a gunboat that is classified as a cruiser for Tier 1 gameplay. You cannot use premium consumables. You only have one module slot, along with, obviously, one consumable slot. It has AA defense, not that you would ever run into aircraft carriers, unless, of course, you manipulate it in training room. But it's a gunboat that has 2x2 130mm guns that extend out a fair range, and they do pretty good damage, to the point where you could actually run into the citadel of a target. Now, something like the Black Swan finds a million citadels, or the Hermelin. The Hermelin's a very good Tier 1. Orlan, super solid. No issue. Nothing really to gain from this experience that will inform you of future Soviet cruisers. It's just there, and yeah, it gets you started on a line that has a very long way to go at this point. At Tier 2, we've got the Novik. This is sort of a World War I, what's it, armored cruiser, that's what they call it. Almost no AA defense. You're lucky you get a 7.62mm gun. It has 8 120mm, and they are set up in such a way that you can't fire all of them at the same time. That's one of the traits of early tier ships, and especially the cruisers. 25 knots. Again, same consumable that's available, damage control, same modules that are available. However, you can use a premium damage control, which will assist you in putting out those floods and fires that inevitably are going to occur down here, because everyone is sort of a new testing their ship out, or they just started a brand new line and they're going at it. We're still in the point where we don't really know what the Soviet cruisers are going to be about. The velocity isn't there yet. Obviously, the range doesn't stretch out past most of the enemy. At Tier 3, we have the Bogatyr. This one has absolutely no AA defense, and it's still that armored cruiser design. The citadels are kind of difficult to reach, but you get access to your second module slot. You have the ability to put a lot of firepower on the target. 14 130mm guns. It's absolutely insane, the amount of guns that you have. But it's still a Tier 3. It's still a Tier 3. If you're given an opportunity on a broadside target, of course take it. The enemy destroyers are really low in the water, so it's going to be difficult to hit the shot, even if you're on target. And unfortunately, down here, you can't use 100% of your guns, even in the best broadside scenario, because the other 50% are on the other side of the ship. So that's just what Tier 3 is, and that's what the Bogatyr plays like. Now, we're up to the Svietlana. She is beautiful. She has torpedo systems, the first torpedo systems of the Soviet fleet. It has 15 130mm guns. The torpedoes have a 5-kilometer range. It has a little bit of AA defense, not much, of course. Maneuvering's pretty good, 29 knots. Rudder's alright. Surface detect, pretty cool. You also have the ability to get hydroacoustic, although only on the B hull. And we're still at our second module slot. But because you have torpedoes, and this is a little bit smaller, it's not a armored cruiser like the previous two tiers. It's a little bit more nimble. It plays more like a large destroyer, and that's attractive. You've got great torpedo angles as well if you ever get a chance to use it, but it's a Tier 4. At Tier 5, we've got the Kirov. The Kirov has 9 180mm guns, a huge jump in gun caliber here. Absolutely devastates the broadside of many cruisers and even battleships. You have a unique setup with consumables. The A hull can use a scout aircraft. The B hull can only use a hydroacoustic setup. And you've unlocked the third slot for your modules, so you have access to accuracy, faster traverse, better secondary range. Not that you would use it, I would stick with accuracy, of course. But we're now starting to get the long-range, high-velocity experience of the Soviets, and that is, you want to outrange every opponent that you could possibly outrange and engage your targets with your gun velocity. Now, that's going to limit the ability to fire over islands, but as long as you maintain good range, the shells are going to get out there quick and do tons of damage. At tier 6, we have the Budyonny. It is more of the same. The gun caliber does drop a little bit from 180 to 152. It has 9, so 3x3. It has torpedo systems, but just as the previous ship that I didn't mention, 4-kilometer range is really only for defense. Fairly reasonable AA protection. Good gun velocity. You could consider using something like inertia fused high explosive if you run into tier 8 battleships. That 32mm threshold is really important. You've got access to defensive fire. You have to choose between that and hydroacoustic, but you also get a benefit of a scout aircraft, which is great to extend that Soviet range even further. So it's continuing that progression in the design that you expect. High speed. Not the best maneuverability, tier for tier, for a cruiser standpoint, but great gun velocity. At tier 7, we have the Shchors. This is, again, 152s. It just adds another gun turret, so you have 12 now. Same torpedo system, same 4-kilometer defense. Maneuverability, 35.5 knots. The turn radius, not the best, 900 meters. It's very large. It feels very large. Surface detection, very poor compared to a lot of tier 7s, but it's the gun velocity. You're going to operate near your maximum gun range. You're going to switch to AP when you see a broadside target, and you're going to exploit it with that high gun velocity. That's the Soviet way. These ships are continuously teaching you how to play that way. You still don't have access to radar, which is going to come up at tier 8, but you got a scout aircraft in that slot, which again extends your fire range even further, so it's almost impossible for non-Soviet cruisers to engage you with their gun velocity. Also, keep in mind, high gun velocity allows you to engage enemy DDs at a fairly long range compared to the competition. At tier 8, we have the Chapayev. The Chapayev is a fantastic mainline ship, great concealment to radar ratio. You'll notice that the A hull can only use the scout aircraft, the B hull can only use the radar system, and radar is a big deal. Once you get radar, it really revolutionizes the way you play Soviets. It's a short duration, long distance radar, but it scouts a target. You should be able to get off 2 or 3 salvos to devastate the enemy, and you have great gun velocity that you're probably going to hit the target at long range. Lots of fires, inertia fuse high explosive. You want the works on this ship, and it never lets up. It's a great ship. I've enjoyed my time with the Chapayev. I have a 19 skill commander in it. It plays fantastic. Again, the torpedoes are purely defensive in nature, though. Don't go looking to kill the enemy with your torpedoes. At tier 9, we have Dmitri Donskoi. This brings the 180s millimeter gun that you're familiar with from the Kirov. 12 of them, though. It has torpedoes that extend out to 8 kilometers, but they are still defensive, and the reason is it has terrible cruiser concealment. This is seen from space. The base surface detect is 16 kilometers. It's bad. It's really bad. But if you're able to engage near max range, your velocity is going to hold up. 180s are great. AP works fantastic on a broadside. AA defense is adequate to above average. You've got radar, of course. You also have the ability to heal, which is very rare, and it becomes available at tier 9 and 10 for all the ships. So she plays okay. She's a little sluggish in the turns. You definitely feel like they're going to punish you in a broadside. At tier 9, we have the Mosvka. The Mosvka is the final ship of the Soviet cruiser. High gun velocity. Very long range, drops the torpedoes completely. Quite frankly, the purely being defensive in nature, you didn't use them up that much anyway. And what you're left with is probably the longest range cruiser in the game, highest gun velocity of almost any ship in the game, incredible at shooting enemy destroyers at very long ranges, 11, 12, 13 kilometers easily. You've got radar, great range. You could consider increasing its duration with the super container radar ability that extends it out. But yeah, it plays really well. enjoy it. Usually I go with the rate of fire. Obviously you can see the modules and the consumables that are available for the ship. Not a lot of decision making on your consumables. You literally decide between defensive fire and hydroacoustic, but regardless, it's a good gun platform, does a lot of damage. Very tanky, deceptively tanky, honestly, with a little bit of angling. However, if you're caught in a turn, and you will be caught in a turn because it is a little sluggish, as pretty much all the Soviet cruisers are, you're going to get punished. So you want to be careful of that. But, best gun velocity in the game, almost the best range in the game, even considering battleships. These ships are fantastic, long-range fire support. They are very strong against a target that tries to maneuver because the gun velocity, there's not a lot of time that the shell is in flight. There's no one better at that. There's no one better at it. So that was the Soviet cruiser line. Tell me what you thought of the new down-the-line direction. If you would like to vote on the next line that I choose for down the line series, please join my Discord. The link is in the description. And please go into the announcements and choose from your favorite or a line that you're interested in seeing previewed. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.